We're starting off today's episode with a little toast as we celebrate 1 year of Strength Happens.
Cheers.
Cheers. Mm,
Nothing like a mid-afternoon treat.
absolutely. Yum.
That's right. Welcome back to Strength Happens. Today feels a little different for us. We're not coming in with really a topic, and there's really not a big plan in the way we usually do. We do usually a lot of research and planning behind our episodes, but we're coming in to pause a bit and look back on the past year because we've
Yay.
been doing this for 1 year. I'm trying to think what our first episode was. It was the last week of June. So today is to celebrate and reflect back and what the reality was versus what we thought. Yeah, and things we've realized along the way, the surprises, the uncomfortable moments, the tears, and the
Cheers.
connections, and
Mm,
how much this has turned into something really special for us and from other people we've heard from.
It's been so nice to hear from families and from other people that have been listening in who have kids with medical issues, who've been through what we've been through, and to hear how this has impacted them. We kept thinking this at the beginning, I think, at least I did, thinking this had to be the perfect idea before we could get it start. We had to learn all the technology.
Oh gosh.
Um, we had to know everything, and honestly, it scared me, and it made me think, "Oh, no, we can't do this." But what's funny now looking back, the hardest part wasn't actually doing the podcast, it was just deciding to do it in the first place, and for
Mhm.
me, it was overcoming the fear of being vulnerable. Putting
Yeah.
myself out there, and it was one thing for the 2 of us to sit in our houses and record this, but then we put it out to the world, and then the hard part was sharing it with people we knew. I don't know why
Yeah.
that was so hard, but it was like, "Are they gonna judge me for, like, having this idea with Janine? This is part of my life that most of my friends don't even see the inside of," you know?
And would people find value?
Yes.
Or is it just us thinking that I know we thought we would find value in it, but would other people?
Absolutely, absolutely. So for me, it's been nice when we do meet the families who listen to us that they are like, "Oh my gosh, this is so needed." And
Yeah.
just their small feedback, they have no idea the impact because that's the purpose of this was to reach those families because we have each other and we want other people to have us and have each other and have that sense of community, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, being able to find their person that gets it.
Yeah, without the
Mhm.
explanation, without the pain.
Yeah.
So today we really are hoping to just slow down and talk about what it was like taking this jump, what surprised us after we did, and what this whole year has actually felt like behind the scenes, not just as podcast hosts, but as friends and as caregivers and as two people who are trying to build something real where life was still happening around us because we are strength happens, real life,
Mhm.
real friends. We're really here for a purpose. And this isn't really a recap, it's more like a reflection, just a conversation with each other and hopefully with you as well.
Yeah, and we hope that you enjoy it, and if you're new to us, maybe it'll help you get a better idea of who we are and where we come from outside of just being moms with kids that had disabilities.
Absolutely.
So now I know looking back a year ago, but it's been so many years prior to that in the making. It started runs when the girls were 4 years old. So, what do you remember thinking the very first time we seriously talked about starting the podcast and actually putting ourselves out there?
Yeah, I think we started the idea of finding a community years ago, like you said, when
Hmm.
our kids were little. But I think in the form of a podcast really started probably when I moved to Connecticut and I would just chat with you every day on my way home from work. And I'm like, good God, if someone recorded these conversations, they would have pure entertainment because we were goofballs, but also times just where we could vent and talk and share. And I'm like, if only a fly was on the wall of some of these conversations in the car. And I think that's where we started getting the idea, what if we did record our conversations where we talk about what it's like, what we're living with? Maybe there are other people that are looking for their community, their friendships,
Mhm.
with somebody who's similar to them and similar experiences. So that's kind of what I think about.
Well, I think too, when you invited me to do the podcast at USF,
Mm.
when you did that for
For my
your
class.
students, and I think the feedback that you gave me after my episode with them,
Mhm,
and that really touched me, and it really made me think a little bit more that I do have something to offer.
mhm,
I have life experience that a lot of people never have, and I feel like I also, just from my background, from being a teacher, and I have that desire to want to share and help people navigate.
mhm.
And I think that helped me think that maybe this was a reality that we could do. And it really was just trying to find a community of people like us, because it's hard to find a community like us.
Absolutely, and everybody has their friendships in their walk of lives, but
Hmm.
most friendships don't have the same background and experiences, and so when you do find another person who's gone through this lived experience of raising kids with complex issues, you're like, "Oh, you're my people." Like, you have that
Yeah.
instant connection that you might not have otherwise. Not that other friends aren't valued in their own unique
But
way,
it's just different.
it's just a different connection. So I agree. I created a small podcast series for a class I taught, and it was putting a face on disabilities. And it really looked at all different walks of life and disabilities, but
Hmm.
yours was powerful as a mom perspective. And my students were counseling students, and it was really powerful for them to hear firsthand people's stories. And I've always been a proponent in academia about sharing the narrative. It's narrative therapy, it's narrative education, especially in the medical community, counseling, doctors, PTs, OTs, that it's really important for the clinician to hear the human side of medicine,
Hmm.
and that's why I've been speaking for years on the human side of medicine. And I think this podcast kind of fills a gap that we've been missing, especially in our foundation. We were missing this
Hmm.
gap of meeting the needs of families. So it's my hope that we can do that. But yeah, it's super exciting to see we made it a year. I didn't want to start this with a couple episodes. And usually I get an idea and I'm like, oh, let's design a cute logo and make a shirt and we're done.
Yeah. They'll
But
fizzle out.
yeah, and we've really sustained it with this, and I feel good for the work we're doing and hopefully the impact we're having.
What were you afraid would happen if we tried and it didn't work? What made you finally say, okay, let's just do this?
And I'm always afraid. I'm a people pleaser. I wanna
Hmm.
make sure I do things that people aren't gonna judge me.
Hmm.
Um, and I think when we framed it in the way of this could be impactful for the Halle Grace Foundation and that we could be reaching the needs of families, and it's always been a part of that foundation I hadn't grown yet, I think that took some of the fear away because when
Hmm.
you have 3 kids living with chronic illness and we've lost Hallie, they've lived a much harder life than being vulnerable on a platform like this, so eventually that became the reality. Look, this is just I have to let go of my own fear and step forward for what I think will be a great adventure, and on a personal side I'm already crying. On a personal side, it's a way for me to feel connected with you, even though we live long distance. It's
Hmm.
really helped me feel like we stay grounded in our friendship and have that connection on a consistent basis, although I call you way too much anyway. Um, but I think this has been a nice way to continue to grow our friendship.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it has definitely deepened our friendship and just our understanding of each other and where we each come from.
And I think there's times in our lives where, especially during those stressful times, I'm sure with you with Morgan when she had C. diff and was in the hospital a lot, or when Hallie was dying or really ill, like, I went in my own bubble, and I
Hmm.
think, one of the nice things about this podcast and our friendship is this has allowed me to see your perspective in those times we each went in our bubble, that you
Hmm.
lived that too. But it's also kept me from pulling back in when times have gotten difficult. This past year, I have a purpose to not pull away, and I think it's been a nice resource for me. I mean, we do
Yeah.
this for other people, but I didn't realize the impact it would have on me too.
Yeah.
Did you have any fears in the beginning, or was there something that was so overwhelming in that beginning? Or
Well, like you, I'm definitely a people pleaser. I don't ever want to come across like the things that I have to say aren't important. And just because I have experienced these things, yes, other people do want to hear about them and they will gain something from it. And that was really hard for me to become vulnerable and to
Mhm.
share things that I don't tell anybody. I
You
don't
hadn't
talk
even
about
told
with anyone.
me.
Yeah,
I
and like thing in the difficulties that you have in your marriage. I really don't share stuff about my marriage because I feel like it's private. Like you don't share things that make you vulnerable to other
Mhm.
people. So I think that was really hard for me to do. But then the other half, it was very overwhelming that you work full time. And so I took on the role of
Mhm.
editing and producing and social media. And it was really intimidating because I'm not a super techie person at all. Like it takes me a little bit to learn stuff. I can learn it if I do it and I'm shown, but to grab it and try to learn on my own, it's been a challenge. But I feel such a sense of accomplishment when I learn something. I'm like, hey, I did this today, or something new, or oh, I got us on YouTube. And when it took me, 8 months to get there, but that's okay. I do little things at a time, and
Well, and I
um,
really think you stepped up to the plate. I mean, you really carried the weight of the editing and background, and I would try and do a little here and there with the social media, but nothing like you do, and then you come up with some of these crazy things that are just so successful and so impressive. I'm just kudos to you for,
well, I don't know about
um
that, but
well, I think
then we're still
really
working on the socials and trying. We're still just not quite getting,
we
grabbing
haven't
our community.
really
But I
found.
know what it is. I know what it is that we need to do. It's just we are still afraid to do it.
Yeah, and it's getting in
Mm,
front of the camera and
yeah,
talking to people, and we
yeah,
need to
and
do
just
that.
being like what we're doing here, but
But
on a social. Yeah.
that's the vulnerability part that I have a hard time with because
Mm.
I have the children, I have the
You
education,
have
but
all the parts.
I just feel like my voice isn't valuable sometimes, like,
I
what am
wonder
I
why
gonna
we feel that way.
I don't know, and it's
Yeah.
funny because you're
Mm,
saying, like, in your family and upbringing, you didn't really share all your feelings and
mhm.
all those things, and I grew up with 2 parents who were psychologists, and we shared everything, but when
But
it
you still
comes
feel the same way I do.
but I feel the same way because I feel
Mhm.
like, am I real is what I'm gonna say be of value to anyone?
Mm.
And I don't wanna waste people's time.
Yeah.
I don't and I hope we can contribute to the pool of families who are going through this and be a support and be a sense of humor and
Yeah.
be a friend to them, but I just sometimes I'm worried about that.
Yeah. It was a lot to try to figure everything out. My son was the first one. When I said to him, I'm like, I have no idea how I would even edit or produce this, or like, what would I even do? And he's like, there's programs for that. I
He's
was
like,
like,
"Quit making it
oh.
complicated."
So then when I started researching, I found Riverside and I was like, oh, that worked. And some parts of it been a lot easier than I anticipated once I figured it out. So overall, it's been a challenge, but I feel like because I haven't been working, it has given me time and space to use my brain and learn
Mhm.
something new, and I've enjoyed doing it.
I love that. I love that because it is a great way to use a different part of
Mm,
your brain, your creativity, and
yeah.
you are so creative and so design oriented and like have a great sense of eye. And a lot of those social media posts or ideas you come up with are so in tune to your personality, and I love that.
Do they always come across well? Not
I think they come
necessarily.
across well. I think we just haven't, like, tapped
Yeah.
into how do we get it out there more so, and we gotta work on marketing ourselves, and so if some
Yeah.
viewers have some good tips for us, we're always open, just not always sure we're ready to be vulnerable, so
Yeah.
but we have come a long way. If you haven't listened to us and you go back and listen to that first episode, oh Lord, give us grace. I We had
Yeah.
one of our guests, Lindsay, who came on one episode and talked about the Feely project where they were, building a playground for a school with children with
Hmm.
autism, and she's like, "Oh, I went back and listened to your first episode and then a few more before I came on," and she goes, "Boy, you guys have come a long way." I just had to laugh. I was like, "Yes, we have."
Well, I just remember we were so awkward. We had no idea what to do. We sat facing each other, which doesn't really engage people when you're not looking at them. Not that we use video, which our
No,
plan
but
hopefully that's the next goal.
and
Katie
we
was
had
sitting there trying to help set
I
up the
know it, I was just
cameras, and
about to say that
she
Katie
was
was
giving us
there.
such a hard time, telling
And
us
we
we
were
are so
giggling and laughing, and that first episode, we were like, "Okay, you start. No, you start." We were so nervous, and we had
yeah.
no idea what we were doing, but I think we got some very good constructive feedback. I know Neely was like, "Hey, you might wanna have a like, who's your target audience? Talk to your audience." And, Mama Donna she always has
Yes.
feedback,
Yeah.
period. It was so exciting, like, episode 5 or 6 was the first time we got, "Wow, that was a really good episode," and then the constructive feedback, but it was the first time, you know,
Yeah.
to
Well, it's
but
hard at the beginning. The way I go about doing my editing, I was focusing a lot more on content that was more informative, and I wasn't letting our personalities kind of show
Mhm,
as much. So it's like I had to kind of learn how to ease that in better. And I think I've done better at it over time.
100%, 100%. If you know, you know,
Yeah.
100%.
Is there anything else that really surprised you from the beginning or anything you realized after that first one? Was there anything that you kind of just realized and you were like, hmm?
Um, I think it was exciting. I felt like, wow, we are doing something bigger than us. The thing that I took home after that first episode was how much I needed this for me.
Hmm.
You know, I need this community we're building. My kids are growing up, but they still have chronic medical issues. Just this year, Neely's had surgery for a kidney stone, and B's had issues with other things medically, and Neely's had other issues with this medically. They grow up, but we're still going through it, and
Yeah.
we're still dealing with the loss of Hallie, and it's like, wow, I needed this community, not just what I would have been great to have. I had you, but it's
Mm.
nice to have a podcast community, but I still need it, and it's nice. I didn't realize how much it'd benefit me, I guess. Not that I wanted something out of it, but I didn't realize I would get this much out of it that I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we thought we were building a podcast, but what did that really mean? We really learned to show up and be consistent
Mhm.
and to keep moving forward. And even though at the beginning it was a little intimidating and scary, and we were like, once we get past these couple episodes, what are we going to talk about? We kept questioning where do we go next? But it kind of has just evolved,
Mhm.
naturally.
Well, and it's funny too, because I thought that was gonna be the difficult part, thinking of podcast episodes, but in reality, when the 2 of us are like, "What are we gonna do next?" And then we sit down and talk about it, and we'll come up with 5 or 6 ideas, and
Hmm.
it's like, "Oh, which way are we gonna go?
Yeah.
Is this too much for 1 episode? Well, we need to break it into 2." So it was really interesting that there's a lot that we can delve into, and it's just finding what's the right topic for the right time.
And as you said, when we did caregiving, we started with one, then it came two, then it came three episodes just revolving around caregiving. And we really just skimmed the surface. Like
I
we
know
really,
there's so much
yeah.
more.
I feel like in so many different ways, we keep learning as we keep doing.
Mhm. Is there anything that you felt easier than you expected in the beginning, or is there
I,
something that's still uncomfortable for you even now that a year out?
I think the conversations, it's been really easy just to transition from our personal conversations and bringing them over here. I do think we're still afraid of, putting them out there and putting our face out there. So I think we need to start releasing the podcast as a video
Not ready, I'm not ready.
on YouTube because I think people really connect more when you put a face to the conversation. That's a huge thing, like on our socials. I feel like that's what we're missing. We're missing those conversations and those silly things that just happen. Like when I'm tube feeding Morgan and she passes gas and it blows off the top and there's formula everywhere. I think it's those personal moments that make us
Human.
relatable.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think you're right. I think we just need to get past that. Big news in, the
Yay.
Strength Happens family. My middle daughter, Neely, just got engaged a couple weeks ago to Truman, so maybe we'll have a little wedding content. Um,
That would
but
be
there's
fun.
Well, and there's things you have to think of when you have chronic illness and you're getting
Hmm.
married, and what time of year, and how heavy is the wedding dress, and heat, and all those things.
Hmm.
So, it's fun that it's part of our conversations that you and I have that we've just taken to a different level.
Yeah, and then I do still worry that we won't find our community. I feel like we've created something really special, and this space really needs conversations like ours. And just the other night, I'm watching HGTV Beachfront Battles. It's 3 teams, they redo homes and they get judged on them, and a team wins every week. Well, they're doing the master suite,
Mhm.
and they come in to judge it, and they're all like, "Why would you put a trundle bed in the master?" And I was like, "Oh,
Do
that's
they have a
awesome."
child with a disability?
No, it was a young couple. They
Oh.
were thinking more from a rental perspective because heads in beds.
Mhm.
To me, I was like, "That's ingenious." It's tucked up in the wall. No one knows that it's there unless you need it. To me, the first thing I thought is we would love that because when we go on vacation, especially if there's stairs, if Morgan's in the room with us, I feel better because I
Mhm.
know that
She's
she
not
is
gonna
safe and
wander.
she's
Yeah.
not going to wander. She's not going to fall. I was like, what a missed freaking opportunity.
Mm.
And I went and searched on Instagram to find their page because I wanted to make a comment, but I couldn't find one. So
Um,
to me, I feel like without our perspective, it's, I don't know. I think it would have been an amazing accommodation for a family like ours.
yeah.
And
Kids
it was totally missed in theirs. All they thought was, well, what
kids in bed.
adults are gonna wanna share their bedroom with their kids or with someone else?
Well, and there's so many of our families are afraid to travel or don't get the
Right.
opportunity to travel that much because of safety concerns,
Yeah.
and that's such a huge element that you're giving them back
Mhm.
to be able to travel safely and enjoy the vacation.
Yeah. At first, I was like, "That was so close-minded," but if they've never walked in my shoes, they would have no they wouldn't even think of it.
Right.
In reality, do I wanna spend my vacation with my daughter in my bedroom? Not really, but
Mhm.
to me, it also appealed to me in a lot of ways because then I knew we bring an air mattress and put an air mattress in the Airbnb when we go in the master.
Yeah,
So
so why
she's with
not
us.
just have it built in?
Mhm. I don't know. Missed opportunity.
There we go.
So is there anything that comes to mind that you're like, we spent all this time worrying about XYZ, but in reality, we really didn't need to worry about that at all?
Yeah, I think the big thing is I worried too much about what other people think. And I think when we're putting together something that the intention is to be there for other people, and we're not going to be everything for everybody. We're here for a specific audience. And we're going to find that audience slowly and surely. And we have begun to build that community. But I think I worried too much about what people I knew thought about it when they listened.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like, you know what? If it's not your cup of tea, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
But we're here for some people. And hopefully we find those people. How
Yeah.
about you?
Well, I think at some point I stopped worrying as much as we were getting closer to maybe the holiday time. And every now and again, I would see that certain episodes, there'd be a pickup on, how many
Mhm.
people actually tuned in or that they weren't just our friends and the
Mhm.
people we knew. I think that's when I started to realize that we do have something to offer. And then when I saw that we were getting people from other countries listening, that was so crazy when we started seeing multiple countries and between Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Apple, it just amazed me that we were able to reach so many people already when we haven't really done a lot of advertising other than doing some social media. So I think to me that's been pretty amazing and shows our
Impact.
oomph.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting too. I was like, I knew you were watching countries when we only had 5. So I asked my friend, I'm like, "Hey, you're from Taiwan. Ask some of your friends on Taiwan to listen." And she did. But then the guy reached out and he's told my friend, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I have a mom with Alzheimer's and the caregiver episodes." He's like, "I went in and listened to all 3." I was asking them just so you could see an uptick in countries,
Yeah.
but it hit home with him, and he was like, "I don't have kids, but I have a mom who I'm taking care of." And I was like, "Wow, that was powerful." So, super fun, super
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, we're up to 32 countries. We've been kind of off the grid for the last month, just kind of regrouping and having some personal things. So it's been interesting to see that there has still been people listening, even over the course of the last month when we
Even when
haven't
we're
really
not
been
putting
doing
ourselves
anything.
out
And
there.
it's one or two here and there, like every day, though.
Yeah.
We're definitely reaching people.
Keeping that momentum going. Yeah, we did it's important for us to take time for ourselves and really regroup and have our personal time and family time, so I'm getting excited to do a
Hmm.
couple more in the queue, so I miss it when we're not doing this. Some people ask me, they're like, "Oh, you work full time and you do that," and I'm like, "This is so fun." I
Yeah.
don't care if it's at 9 o'clock at night or well, who's kidding? I go to bed at, like,
Yeah,
8:30.
I'm getting ready for bed.
But we'll do it on the weekend, or I love setting aside time for this to continue to build that community. So, and hopefully we're finding the people that matter most because we're not doing this alone. And hopefully we reach those people that need to hear it. And I'm super
Yeah.
excited about what's ahead.
Was there anything you learned about me in this through this process that surprised you?
About you. Yeah, you've told a few stories that I had no idea about. And so I was like, I thought I knew everything about Janine, but there's sides of you ironically, that we're more alike than I thought, because
Mm,
we're already a lot alike and have a lot in common, but, like, your tendency to kind of back away and not share as
mhm,
much when you're going through a difficult time is something I do, it's a protective mechanism,
mhm,
and when we had that conversation in one of the episodes, I was like, "Wow, I didn't know you did that too." Like, is that something other people are going through? When I realized both of us are doing it, and made me think, how do I hold you accountable to keep you from doing that again so that how can I be
mm,
a better friend to you? I think it taught me.
okay.
And then I was like, have I not been there as a friend to you over the years? Because we've both been in such
Mhm,
crisis modes with our family. So I think some of those episodes really surprised me. But I think in the end, when I learn those new things, it allows me to try and be a better friend to you in the end.
mm.
So, yeah.
Well, you've always been a very good friend, and as you know, even in those times when you pull back, it has nothing to do with the other person.
No, and that's
Yeah,
what one of the nice
mm,
things. I don't have to worry about whether you get your feelings hurt. You're like, we both knew we were each going through crisis
yeah,
and it wasn't anything personal and you can just jump back in no matter what.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, we
But
definitely complement each other very well.
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Uh,
'cause, like, your strengths might be some more my weaknesses and vice versa.
yeah. I don't think we would have kept this going if we weren't both tapping into all our strengths that we have to keep it rolling.
Mm, and our needs, as you've said, we obviously both need this too because they both come into play. I think they're both contribute to why we've been able to maintain and continue.
Yeah, it's a super special project for me, personally, professionally, for our foundation, but most of all for our friendship, I think has been the most important thing for me.
Yeah. Now, from the perspective of other people, has there been anything a listener has said that has kind of stayed with you?
Um, I think when Rochelle mentioned how when she came on and talked about the purple players and she talked
Hmm.
about how special this podcast is and how it's so
Yeah.
needed, it was nice to hear from someone who's gone through so much that,
Hmm.
she feels like we're filling a gap that's out there. I really respect her opinion, and
I do too.
I thought that was really special.
Yeah, I
Um
felt too because she is in this space, not in
Mhm.
podcast space, but has her own foundation. And they're deeply embedded in the community that we want to be a part of and share. So she knows what's missing. And I think she really felt like this is really needed. And that
Mhm.
was really validating. And to me, it was very touching.
Mhm. Yeah, those are one of the things that stay with you.
Yeah.
Were there any moments in the podcast episode that stands out most to you? Or a conversation that we had that stands out most? Anything like that?
I was trying to think of some of my favorite moments or my favorite episodes. And I think one of the first episodes I really enjoyed was the one when we talked about the Halle Grace Foundation back in Giving Tuesday. I felt like I learned a lot about how it all came to fruition. I mean, I knew, but just from a more personal perspective and what your hopes and dreams were for the foundation. And it feels kind of special that I'm part of that by contributing to the podcast and allowing that to be part of what your mission is for the Callie Grace Foundations. That was an impactful one for me. And I also learned about myself is that I really enjoyed that give and take and having more of an interview kind of conversation. I like having a guest and learning about people.
It's funny because that's my favorite episode. I feel
Is it
like
really?
yeah, I felt like from June to November, we were slowly getting better each episode, but I feel like we really came into our own, and that episode really highlight both our strengths. One, you're really good at asking questions. You listen to the guest. At that episode, it happened to be me, but you really listen to the guest. You have really powerful questions that I think the whole episode, I was like, oh, that's a great question. And you have great follow ups. And I felt like it was so natural that whole episode. It was also a nice for me to talk about Hallie because she is the
Mhm.
purpose behind this, and to have my best friend, carrying on her legacy with
Mhm.
me was really, really cool. It was a really
Yeah.
cool moment for me, so
No, see, now you're making me cry. Then I don't
Ah!
cry, but
Yeah, yeah, and then, anytime I can talk about Hallie and how cool of a kid she was is always a good episode. So if you haven't listened, go back to Giving Tuesday. It kinda tells a little bit about the foundation and how this podcast kinda grew out of that.
well, in mentioning cool kids, the other one that I really enjoyed was Dalton.
Oh
I
my god,
just
I love
adored that one.
Dalton.
And being like, you're pretty popular." "Yes, I am."
Right.
There's
He
something
is just
about that whole conversation, I really enjoyed them.
he's just a really genuine, authentic kid, and he's got
Yeah.
a great mom who supports him and
Mm,
helps develop change. Yeah, that was a great one too. I
mm,
love bringing guests on. I think that's been a
I
lot of
do.
fun.
Well, it gives a
Um,
whole other perspective to things that we already talk about, and it makes them a little bit deeper.
mhm. Absolutely, and I always like when we can highlight other organizations like Purple Players or like the
Yeah.
work being done with Feely to raise money for
Yes.
that playground. It's just a lot of fun to be able to highlight those smaller groups that are doing some big change, so
Yeah, because it does. It starts a lot with those small communities making those small changes, and
mhm.
that make some of the biggest impact.
Well, and that's where we see inclusion, that's where we see accessibility when we have
Mm.
people who are willing to do that, and community is what we are about, trying to build that community for the families like ours.
And what do you think community actually means to you after doing this whole year?
I think it's friends we haven't met yet. So I hope there's some people out there that may one day come up to us and go, "Hey,
Mhm,
wait, I listened to you and I can relate so much." Like
mhm.
community is finding your people who understand you that you don't owe an explanation to. You can just say, "Hey, I'm a mom with a kid with a diagnosis and I get you." And then
Yeah,
that's it. You're in our community and we're here for you and you're here for us. Like it goes both ways.
yeah. I kinda felt that with Lindsay. When she jumped in, just the connection with the whole feeding tube stuff,
Yeah,
and there was a lot of similarities with her daughter and Morgan, and
yeah,
I
they
was just like, "Oh, welcome to the community." It just felt like that easy, but it felt like she needed that too. So we're giving from both sides, giving and receiving.
absolutely. And on that element, if someone was listening now and this is their first time listening to our episode, what is something you would want them to hear from our community of Strength Happens?
The biggest thing is that you're not alone.
Mhm,
You feel so alone in a lot of those big moments. Those big moments when someone's telling you a diagnosis or telling you that something's not working anymore and you're feeling kind of lost and not know where to turn or what to do. Knowing that other moms and dads, caregivers, they have felt that feeling before.
mhm.
And yes, you feel utterly alone in those moments, but hopefully you can find a way to turn that around, whether it's our community or finding support groups around you. But I think to me, that's the biggest thing is you don't need to feel alone because there's so many of us out there.
I just read yesterday that they're removing special education from the Department of
Mm-hmm.
Education, and we're getting more cutbacks in Medicaid and Medicare. And the services being offered our kids are less and less, and insurance doesn't cover everything. So we need to rely on each other more now than ever
Mhm.
on, "Hey, we're the best therapists. Hey, how do I get the services I need?" And
Mhm.
I think when times are rough in our country, in history, it's those grassroots efforts that really come to
Mhm.
be the biggest support for groups, and, this is a time when the disability community really needs to be there for one another. Well, and now we're gonna see with the cut of special education, we're gonna
Mhm.
see those kids who got the services in elementary school aren't gonna get the same
Yeah.
services. So, what I hope as we continue to grow, as we look forward to the next year, not only are we being a community and a support to families that need it, not only are we being an education platform for medical professionals or pre-professionals going into the field, but I hope that we can also be a platform for social justice and
Mhm.
inclusivity, and how can we make the voices of advocacy for the families who need that voice of
Mhm.
advocacy? Because I
Yeah.
think we need that more now than ever. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that that's where this would grow to, like, where we would work and help people find their voice, like all our guests coming on and Dalton finding his voice and sharing
Yeah.
his story, and Lindsay sharing her story, and we're here to give them that platform too.
Yeah. Do you ever think about what type of guest would really be impactful for our community?
Yeah, I think I would love to kinda tap into some individuals with physical disabilities that we have a
Mhm.
lot of medically
Yeah, we haven't explored that yet.
Yeah, like, I've worked with the, physically impaired community, I
Mhm.
worked with a lot of individuals with spinal cord injuries or
Oh,
amputees
and challenged athletes.
in the Challenged
Yep.
Athlete Foundation, and there's so many amazing families and stories that I would love to tap into that this next year.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
What is the Love on the Spectrum? The couple from Tampa
Yeah.
and Plant City would be cool. Um, we looked at that Mom Be Kind
Oh,
campaign.
yeah.
Those are ones I would love to see on the show. Are there any for you that you'd love to have on
I
or
would like to maybe tap into the psychology side of it
Hmm,
and finding therapists that have worked with families like ours, kind of give quick tips and stuff on how to handle certain things, certain situations, and the sibling support. We talk about it a lot that we want to do a sibling series of some sort. I really feel like that's really needed in our community. I feel like the siblings take on a lot, and I don't know that there's a lot of resources for them at this point. I feel like there's been a wave of support for caregiving in the past year or two. There seems to be an uptick on where caregivers are being brought to the forefront and
mhm.
resources are being provided. There's a lot of nonprofits that have started stuff for caregivers. But I still feel like the siblings, there's still, I think, a lack of support and content for them.
Absolutely. And even though all my kids have their own diagnoses, my younger 2 were siblings, and
Yeah.
Hallie was a sibling too, who
Yeah.
had to be a sibling while I was in the hospital with one of the other ones.
Hmm.
So, sometimes you have the double whammy of being the patient and a sibling of
Yeah.
chronically ill, and,
Mhm.
your kids as well. I think that's very impactful, and I think one of my dream episodes is our 3 girls, your twins and
Yeah.
Neely, and one day I think we'll get them all down to do that.
I think maybe before the end of the summer, their summer session should be ending in June, that maybe in July they can find a time.
Well, I think that mid-July is perfect for Neely because
Yeah.
Truman's going to some training, so she'll be
Yeah.
living with us again. Yeah, we may not like what they have to share, but at least they'll be authentic for sure. Well, and hey, it's good for us. There are things we didn't realize, and they love to point out those things. But
Yeah.
hey, that means there's other families that have things that they
Exactly.
didn't realize, and hopefully their voices will help others kind of understand that sibling perspective.
Yeah.
Do you have another purpose or something you want to grow? Social media, anything?
Mm. I definitely feel like we need to go video on YouTube. And I think changing some of the way we approach socials, maybe trying to go live when we're together with Feely, maybe try to do like a quick live
A little update with
update
Lindsay.
with their playground and their Boys and Girls Club project. I definitely think we will see growth from those. What about you?
I agree with all those. I just like to keep the momentum going, the
Mhm.
consistency going, and bitch, I need to get some more bingo cards filled out. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
I hope we continue to grow. I hope that it becomes meaningful. this next year, I'd really like to find more of our community, maybe going to a conference and
Yeah.
having a table and interviewing people live at a table. I don't
That
know.
would be fun.
Yeah, I just like to find our people and get more out there.
Well, I do think that as a whole, a year is a big accomplishment.
Mhm.
And I think we've even done more than we thought we would have done. And I think we just
Absolutely.
keep up with the momentum. I still think we have a lot to share and we're just getting
Totally.
started.
We are. We're just getting started. I know that we started this process thinking we were just trying something new,
Mm.
continuing our phone calls in the car. But what we actually created was this little small place where people don't have to explain why they're exhausted or why they're in crisis mode just to be understood. They're just accepted. And in doing that, we found something we didn't even know that we were looking for,
Right.
eh, or at least I didn't know I was looking for, and it was
Mm.
a place for others like us, that it's not just the 2 of us, that we have a whole community out there of like-minded people that we can share our story with, and they can share their story with us.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're going through something that's heavy, like caregiving responsibility, new diagnosis, just life in crisis mode, you're not doing it in isolation, even if it always seems to feel that way. Because when you're in that moment, sometimes it's hard to separate out. But this little podcast is here for you.
Yes.
And it still surprises us on how something that felt so scary in the beginning, it's so much more natural now, and the flow seems to just go better. And we're more relaxed in feeling that what we have to say will reach someone that needs
Absolutely.
it.
And even if it's one person out there with each episode, it's
Mhm.
means something to us, because we thought we were just starting a podcast, but what we were actually doing ended up being building this space where we could show up honestly, sometimes raw, sometimes with tears, sometimes with lots of laughter and humor, in which we hope other people can do the same with us, where we talk about the medical world, about parenting, caregiving, but we also bring some life, love, and joy to it as well.
Yeah, because I know for me, especially with caregiving, it can feel like you're carrying everything in silence. Nobody really sees it unless they've lived it. And
Absolutely.
as we've shared, that you do tend to kind of go back into yourself during those challenging times. But just know that when you're ready to come out of that challenging time, there's a community for you.
Oh, beautifully said. And if there's anything we hope you take from this episode, it's this. You're not as alone in this that you might feel sometimes. And if
Yeah.
you are in that space, turn us on. You don't have to leave your house. Turn us on. We're here for you. We're excited to continue the journey we began a year ago. We're hope you tune in, and here's to another great year.
All right. And we're really grateful you've been here with us this past year. Even if you're just starting to join us now, you can go back and listen.
Absolutely.
Mm.
This is Strength Happens.